Hey everybody, welcome into this week's edition of the Top 5 from Tony's Spot on Fishing. I'm your host, Tony Krizik, and this time we're counting down our top 5 picks for the best pre-spawn early spring bass baits you should be throwing on your favorite waters. Now, the first thing we're going to talk about is actually a creature style bait or a soft plastic, and it's from Bass Pro Shops, the Bull Hog. And it's a good thick body creature bait, so it'll have a real slow fall, but also has those big tentacles on the back end to really have a lot of undulation. As always, I'm not happy unless I can put my garlic pen to that chartreuse garlic pen on it and give it a little extra scent, a little extra flash. But what's nice, we can rig that with an 1/8 ounce tungsten weight, Texas rig it. 4/0 EWG Gamakatsu hook is the best option for that bait. It'll have a real nice slow fall. It'll kind of swim its way down, and as it swims down, as it's pulled by that free sliding 1/8 ounce weight, it'll actually, those tails will be swimming all the way down, undulating, and it'll kind of hit head first, and it'll slowly kind of go, and any kind of current will just kind of keep that tail, the front half, or the rear half rather, bouncing like that, those tails. Great bait, especially if you're have any kind of newer emergent vegetation. If you're fishing rocks, a rock shoreline or a rock hump, things of that nature. Anytime you have to slow down and just kind of swim a plastic, you know, almost a combination of a jig type swim, because it has such a slow fall rate to it. And it's one of those things, especially right after ice out, it's a very good presentation to be throwing. Boy, anybody who has ever fished with me knows one thing for certain, and that is I love fishing a spinnerbait. You know, a spinnerbait is one of the most versatile baits you have in your arsenal as a bass angler. And they're great right off the bat early on in the season, because what's nice is they can be fished at any level of the water column. The faster you retrieve it, the higher it rides. The slower you retrieve it, the lower it rides. And we can cover all depths of water. A lot of times just slow rolling that thing with just a slow crank of the handle, keeping it just on the weed tops. If you bump one, give it a rod tip a little twitch, it'll be perfect. It's lights out. Now, one thing you're gonna wanna look at is running one with a trailer hook. Now I personally love the War Eagle spinnerbaits. Strike King as well is very good, but definitely put that trailer hook to it. When you put a trailer hook on it, those short strikes, a lot of times they'll just come up and swipe at it. It'll really help you hook and land a lot more fish running that trailer hook very early on. There are so many manufacturers now that produce a chatterbait. You know, Z-Man started the whole thing rolling. We have Booyah does one, Strike King does one. They're technically, I guess, just called bladed jigs, if you want to be technical about it. But I'll tell you, one of my absolute favorite ones to run is from Shur-set Tackle, and they call it the Shimmy Jimmy. Now, this thing is really unique in the fact that it has a football head on it. You know, it's a flat bladed jig. There's no curvature at all on that blade. You tie direct to that snap, and a football head with that flat blade, it gives it such a unique action. It's a vibration you don't see in other chatterbaits. And I'll tell you what, it's definitely one of my new favorite ones to be throwing around. They do some great colors. You can play around. They have their own trailers as well from Shur-set, the swim bait trailers that you can put on the back of these things. Personally, my favorite thing to do, it's a little costly, so I'll warn you right off the bat, is actually running a swim Senko and cutting down a swim Senko and putting it on there and just matching it as close as I can. Now, we can do a stop and go retrieve with these chatterbaits. We can do a straight retrieve. We can fish them slow. We can fish them fast. As always, the fish are going to tell you on any given day and every given period how they want that bait working. Let the fish tell you. I will say, for not only the spinnerbaits but the chatterbaits as well, always, always, always run braided line. The reason I prefer that, single hooks, man, I tell you, I know we don't do it with plastics, but plastics are a thinner gauge metal on those hooks. It's a thicker gauge on a spinnerbait. We need to make sure we drive that single hook home, and that's why running a braided line for a chatterbait or a spinnerbait really helps us improve our hook set ratios. Now, how can you go out and fish pre-spawn early spring bass without talking about a lipless crankbait. Bill Lewis introduced the rattle trap a long time ago, and they had kind of set the standard for many years. Strike King revolutionized the industry, I gotta say, when they introduced the red-eye shad. It's a unique body. On a pause, it'll actually shimmy and swim its way down. The half-ounce size is perfect in any application. No matter if you're in deeper water, shallower water, you can scoot it along, keep it out of the structure. If you bump structure, give that rod tip a rip, and you can a lot of times shake that vegetation or whatever on it, a leaf off of it. And a lot of times that's when you get those fish to react, when it makes that sudden change in direction. Definitely run monofilament mostly for throwing these type of baits. P-Line CX is excellent. Felt like I just had one swipe me there. And a softer rod tip is definitely also a good help, because that'll actually keep those baits buttoned up a little bit nicer on these fish. So many times, you know, guys make the mistake of trying to run a heavier rod, and these fish in the early spring like this will just suck a bait in. And when that happens, if your rod doesn't have a little bit of flex to it, it's not good. You're not going to get good hook sets. Springtime, early spring, later into the fall, cold water, to me, it's just, there's one thing, and that's our #1 pick, and it's a jerkbait. Now, if you prefer Lucky Craft, Evergreen, the Rapala branded, Strike King mixed jerkbaits, there's so many brands out there. But my all-time favorite, I've thrown them all, is still from Rapala, the BX Minnow. It's a balsa wood encased in plastic, polyurethane jerkbait. Has a tremendous amount of roll to it and flash, that belly roll and flash that you just don't get out of other jerkbaits, and a very slow, subtle rise. My second favorite, also from Rapala, would be more like the new Shadow Wraps. The Shadow Wrap Shad kind of has that belly roll to it, but it's a very quick riser. The regular Shadow Wrap, real hard cuts to it, a lot of flash. It's a good bait, don't get me wrong. But I'll tell you what, the Rapala BX Minnow has just been magical around the Chicagoland area for me. If you're fishing Chicagoland and southern Wisconsin and you're looking for a go-to jerkbait, look no further than the Rapala BX Minnow. It's that good. It is worth every penny. Now, one thing to also remember, when you're fishing a jerkbait like this, the rod tip is going to impart all the action. The reel is just there again to pick up the slack line. Just twitches, integrate different lengths and pauses. Let the rod tip do the work, and you're just snapping your wrist. You're not pulling your whole arm, just snapping the wrist. And that'll bring a jerkbait to life, no matter which brand you're throwing. So that's it, guys. Those are our top 5 picks. What are yours? What are your favorite pre-spawn baits? Everybody's got their #1 go-to this early in the year. Water's first starting to warm up. The air temperature's finally starting to warm up. It sure took it long enough, I'll tell you that. But man, finally, I think we can say spring has sprung. So let us know. Put it in the comments below. And of course, always be sure to like and share and subscribe to our channel. Share Spot on Fishing with all your fishing friends. And all of the products that you see in our top 5s can be found in the links to our Amazon account, where you can help support Spot on Fishing, and we can continue to bring you these great programmings all around Chicagoland and southern Wisconsin and northwest Indiana. That's about it for this week. Once again, ladies and gentlemen, my name's Tony Krizek. We'll catch you again on Tony's Spot on Fishing.